Now, there's been a lot of debate around the world about ultra-processed foods, the consumer group which says they make up around 60% of our diets. So what exactly are they? Well, there's no settled definition, but generally they contain ingredients not used in home cooking.
Most of us think we know what we're eating. We flip the package over, scan the nutrition label, and toss it in the cart without a second thought. But what's actually inside most of these products? We have no idea. Because the real story, what actually happens during production, is deliberately kept from us, buried behind feel-good branding and images designed to stop you from asking questions. But once you find out what's really going on, everything changes. Number 20. Chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets show up everywhere. Lunch trays, freezers, drive-through windows. They look simple, bite-sized, innocent. But the real story starts long before the fryer. To make nuggets at scale, manufacturers rely on mechanically separated chicken. That's not a cut of meat. It's a paste. What happens is this. Leftover chicken carcasses are pushed through a high-pressure sieve until every possible scrap is forced out. Muscle, skin, connective tissue, cartilage, all of it. What comes out is a smooth, pink slurry that barely resembles chicken anymore. That paste doesn't taste like much, so it gets reworked. Fillers are added. Preservatives step in. Flavor enhancers do the heavy lifting. The mixture is shaped, breaded, and fried or baked until it looks familiar again. But nutritionally, it's a different story. High sodium, added fats, long ingredient lists, and behind it all sits factory farming, with its antibiotics, crowded conditions, and environmental footprint. The nugget you dip in sauce is less chicken and more industrial reconstruction. Number 19. Hot dog. Hot dogs are pure nostalgia, ball games, backyard grills, summer nights. But the process behind that perfect cylinder is anything but nostalgic. Like nuggets, hot dogs often begin with mechanically separated meat: pork, beef, chicken, sometimes all three. Leftover animal parts are ground down into a fine paste that includes fat, skin, and organs most people would never choose on their own. Water gets mixed in, starches thicken it. Salt and spices mask it. Preservatives lock it in. One additive in particular raises eyebrows: sodium nitrite. It keeps hot dogs pink and shelf-stable, but it's also been linked in studies to higher cancer risk when consumed regularly. Then there's the casing. Traditionally, that's cleaned animal intestine, though synthetic versions are common now. Everything gets cooked, cooled, and sealed for sale. The end product tastes familiar, but it's built on low-quality inputs, heavy processing, and high sodium. Number 18. Processed cheese. Processed cheese melts perfectly. That's its superpower. It never breaks. It never separates. And that's exactly the clue. Real cheese doesn't behave like that without help. Processed cheese starts as actual cheese, but that's only the beginning. It gets melted down and blended with emulsifiers, stabilizers, preservatives, and coloring agents until it becomes something entirely new. Sodium phosphate and sodium citrate keep fats and liquids locked together. Artificial colors make every slice look identical. Pasteurization stretches shelf life even further. By the time it's poured into molds or sliced into squares, the percentage of real cheese is far lower than people assume. Health-wise, the sodium adds up fast. Additives can trigger sensitivities. And environmentally, dairy production carries heavy water use and greenhouse gas costs. Number 17. Instant noodles. Instant noodles are the definition of convenience. Cheap, fast, always there. But the process behind them explains why they last so long. Wheat flour is mixed with water, salt, and alkaline agents, then rolled, cut, and steamed. That's the normal part. The turning point comes next. To make them shelf-stable, the noodles are fried in hot oil to remove moisture. That step locks in fat before you even boil water. Then come the seasoning packets. Heavy sodium, artificial flavors, monosodium glutamate for impact. For some people, that means headaches or nausea. For everyone, it means salt levels that add up fast. Nutritionally, there's not much there. Low fiber, few vitamins, minimal minerals. Environmentally, the palm oil used in frying is a major driver of deforestation, and the plastic packaging adds to waste streams. Number 16. Canned meat. Canned meat feels old school, reliable, always ready, but the can hides a lot. These products are typically made from low-quality cuts ground down and mixed with water, salt, and preservatives. Sodium nitrite shows up again, extending shelf life and locking in color. Everything gets cooked, sealed under pressure, and stored for months or years. The health trade-off is real. High sodium, processed fats. Preservatives linked to long-term risks when consumed often. Studies consistently associate processed meats with heart disease, obesity, and certain cancers. Then there's the environmental cost. Factory farming produces massive amounts of waste, greenhouse gases, and land degradation. Number 15. Marshmallows. Marshmallows look harmless, soft, sweet, fun, but their bounce comes from gelatin. Gelatin is made by boiling animal skin, bones, and connective tissue, usually from cows or pigs, then treating it with acids or alkalis until collagen breaks down into a clear protein. That substance gets mixed with sugar, corn syrup, and flavoring, whipped full of air, and molded into shape. For many people, that raises ethical and dietary questions. Vegetarians, vegans, kosher and halal consumers. Beyond that, gelatin production ties back to factory farming and its environmental footprint. The treat itself is light, but the supply chain behind it is anything but. Plant-based alternatives exist, using agar-agar or carrageenan, proving that the classic marshmallow texture isn't inevitable. Number 14. Margarine. Margarine was marketed as progress, a smarter, modern replacement for butter. But the way it's made tells a more complicated story. It starts with vegetable oils like soybean, canola, or palm oil. Naturally, these oils are liquid. To turn them into a solid spread, manufacturers alter their molecular structure through processes like hydrogenation or intrasterification. That's where concerns begin. Partial hydrogenation famously created trans fats, which were later linked to heart disease, stroke, and metabolic disorders. Many brands moved away from trans fats, but the replacement processes still rely on heavy chemical manipulation. Add emulsifiers, preservatives, artificial colors, and flavor compounds, and the result is a product designed in a lab, not a kitchen. Then there's the environmental side. Palm oil production has driven massive deforestation and habitat loss. Number 13. Soda. Soda looks harmless, cold, fizzy, refreshing, but it's one of the most engineered drinks on the planet. At its core, soda is carbonated water mixed with sweeteners like high-fructose corn syrup or artificial alternatives, plus flavorings, acids, caffeine, and preservatives. The sugar load alone is enough to raise alarms. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, tooth decay, and insulin resistance all show up repeatedly in research tied to heavy consumption. Diet sodas don't escape scrutiny either. Artificial sweeteners can disrupt metabolic signals, leaving the body confused about hunger and fullness. Environmentally, soda carries a heavy footprint. Corn farming for sweeteners relies on pesticides, fertilizers, and massive water use. Plastic bottles and aluminum cans add waste, and producing a single liter of soda can require multiple liters of water. Number 12. Farmed shrimp. Farmed shrimp is often sold as the responsible choice, but the reality is murky. Many shrimp farms operate in regions with weak environmental oversight. Ponds are overcrowded. Antibiotics and chemicals are used to control disease. Wastewater gets dumped into nearby rivers and coastlines, polluting ecosystems and harming local communities. One of the biggest casualties is mangrove forests. These natural coastal barriers are cleared to make room for shrimp ponds, leading to erosion, biodiversity loss, and increased greenhouse gas emissions. The feed creates another problem. Shrimp are often fed fish meal made from wild-caught fish, driving overfishing elsewhere. On top of that, investigative reports have linked parts of the shrimp industry to labor abuses. Number 11. Foie gras. Foie gras is framed as luxury, delicate, refined. But its production is one of the most controversial food practices still in use. Ducks or geese are force-fed through tubes inserted into their throats, delivering massive amounts of feed multiple times a day. This process causes the liver to swell dramatically, creating the texture foie gras is known for. Animal welfare groups argue this practice causes pain, stress, organ damage, and high mortality rates. Veterinary studies have documented respiratory distress and injuries tied directly to force feeding. Because of this, several countries and regions have banned foie gras production or sales altogether. The debate isn't about taste. It's about whether luxury justifies suffering. As alternatives grow more popular, many chefs are stepping away from foie gras entirely, choosing spreads made from plants instead of force. Number 10. Commercial white bread. White bread feels basic, familiar, but its simplicity is deceptive. To make it, wheat is refined until the bran and germ are removed, stripping away fiber, vitamins, and minerals. What remains is mostly starch. That refined flour digests quickly, causing blood sugar spikes and crashes. To compensate for texture and shelf life, manufacturers add dough conditioners, emulsifiers, preservatives, and sometimes added sugars. The result is bread that lasts longer but offers far less nutritionally. Diets heavy in refined grains have been linked to obesity, heart disease, and metabolic issues. Environmentally, large-scale wheat farming depends on water, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides. White bread feeds millions, but it does so by prioritizing speed and uniformity over nourishment. Number 9. Canned vegetables. Canned vegetables promise convenience, but the can comes at a cost. To preserve them, vegetables are blanched and heated at high temperatures. That process destroys heat-sensitive nutrients like vitamin C and reduces overall nutritional value. Many varieties are then packed in salty or sugary liquids to improve flavor and shelf life. Another concern hides in the can lining. Some still contain bisphenol A, a chemical linked to hormone disruption. Environmentally, metal can production requires significant energy, and transporting heavy cans increases emissions. Fresh vegetables, especially local ones, usually carry more nutrients and a smaller footprint. Frozen vegetables offer a middle ground, locking in nutrients without heavy additives. Canned vegetables last longer, but longevity often means compromise. Number 8. Imitation crab. Imitation crab looks convincing. It shreds like seafood, turns pink at the edges, and slides easily into sushi rolls. But it isn't crab at all, it's surimi, a processed paste made from minced white fish, usually pollock or whiting, washed repeatedly until most flavor, fat, and color are stripped away. What's left is a bland protein base. To make it taste like crab, manufacturers rebuild it. Starches add body. Sugar adds sweetness. Egg whites bind it. Artificial and natural flavors do the rest. Then colorants are added to create that familiar red and white look. Once shaped and cooked, it's ready for packaging. While it's lower in fat than real crab, imitation crab is often much higher in sodium and far lower in nutrients. Environmentally, surimi production raises concerns about overfishing and bycatch. Number 7. Prepackaged salads. Prepackaged salads sell the idea of health and speed in the same container, washed, chopped, ready to eat. But that convenience introduces risk. These salads pass through multiple handling stages, increasing the chance of contamination. Outbreaks linked to E. coli, Listeria, and Salmonella have repeatedly traced back to bagged greens. Manufacturers use chemical washes to reduce bacteria, but those treatments aren't foolproof. Add the short shelf life, constant refrigeration, and long transportation routes, and the carbon footprint grows quickly. The plastic containers add another layer of waste, often single-use and rarely recycled properly. Whole heads of lettuce or locally grown greens involve less handling and less packaging. Washing at home takes more time, but it also restores control. Number 6. Food colorings. Bright colors sell food before taste ever gets involved. Reds, yellows, blues. Many of them come from synthetic food colorings made from petroleum-derived chemicals. These additives exist purely for appearance, yet they've been linked in studies to allergic reactions, behavioral effects in children, and other health concerns. Some colorings have been banned in certain countries, while remaining legal elsewhere. Even so-called natural alternatives can raise questions. Carmine, for example, is made from crushed insects and often surprises consumers who never expected it in candy or drinks. Color doesn't add nutrition, it adds expectation. Choosing foods without artificial coloring means choosing products that rely less on visual tricks and more on what's actually inside. Number 5. Packaged fruit snacks. Fruit snacks wear a healthy disguise. Fruit on the box. Words like natural and real. But inside, many are closer to candy than produce. High-fructose corn syrup or concentrated fruit juice delivers sugar in dense amounts. Artificial flavors and colors round out the profile. Nutritionally, fiber is minimal. Vitamins are often added back synthetically. The chewy texture can even pose choking risks for young children. Environmentally, the individual plastic wrappers pile up fast, creating waste for a product meant to feel wholesome. Whole fruit tells a different story. Fiber slows sugar absorption. Nutrients stay intact. No wrapper required. Number 4. Factory farmed eggs. Eggs seem simple. Crack the shell. Cook, eat. But how those eggs are produced matters. In factory farms, hens are often confined in battery cages with barely enough room to move. No sunlight, no dust bathing, no nesting. These stressful conditions weaken immune systems, increasing disease risk and antibiotic use. Waste from large operations can contaminate water sources and release greenhouse gases. While eggs remain affordable, the low price reflects the system behind them. Alternatives like pasture-raised or free-range eggs offer hens more space and natural behavior. They also tend to reduce environmental strain. An egg may look identical on the outside, but its story can be very different. Number 3. Corn syrup. Corn syrup shows up everywhere. Sauces, snacks, drinks. High-fructose corn syrup in particular delivers concentrated sweetness at low cost. But the health concerns follow closely behind. Obesity, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance. The links are well documented. Producing corn syrup requires massive monoculture farming. Water use is heavy. Fertilizers and pesticides run off into rivers and soil. Biodiversity drops as single crops dominate landscapes. Add transportation and processing emissions, and the footprint grows larger. Sweetness feels harmless in small amounts, but corn syrup's reach makes moderation difficult. Reducing exposure often means stepping away from heavily processed foods altogether. Number 2. Conventionally grown strawberries. Strawberries look delicate, but growing them conventionally often involves aggressive chemical use. Because they're vulnerable to pests and disease, growers rely on pesticides and fungicides throughout the season. Residues can remain on the fruit, even after washing. Strawberries frequently rank high on lists measuring pesticide contamination. Exposure has been linked to hormone disruption and neurological effects. Environmentally, runoff harms waterways and pollinators, while irrigation demands strain water supplies. Organic strawberries reduce chemical exposure, and local seasonal buying lowers transport emissions. Number 1. Artificial sweeteners. Artificial sweeteners promise sweetness without calories. Aspartame, sucralose, saccharin. They're hundreds of times sweeter than sugar, yet their effects are still debated. Some research suggests links to altered gut bacteria, increased cravings, and metabolic confusion. Other studies disagree. What's clear is their persistence. Certain sweeteners don't break down easily and have been detected in water systems after treatment. Producing them requires energy, chemical processing, and long supply chains. Natural alternatives exist, but the simplest shift is reducing sweetness overall. Hit subscribe and click the card.